Welcome, my weebs and weirdos, to a special unboxing of a figure by We Are a Design. The figure in question today is of Tomura Shigaraki from the hit series My Hero Academia. It is in 1/5 scale and made of resin and polyurethane. And right off the bat, this thing is massive. I mean, I knew this was going to be big, but certainly not this big. It was nice to see that they had the buyer numbers on the bottom of the statue, so it appears I was buyer number 41 out of 200. I will admit, I'm a little surprised that I was of the top 50 to initially start buying this thing, but at the same time, I'm not. And as you can see, everything is neatly packed away tight into this giant styrofoam box and wrapped with tissue paper. Yes, every piece was wrapped with some sort of tissue paper, and I really do appreciate the care that went into packing this thing up. There were also a few bits of foam for very particular pieces in here that made sure that everything stayed secure or didn't have pieces that were sticking out become a hazard. It is made very evident that they want these things to arrive in one piece and safely, which I appreciate. The main figure itself is estimated at a height of 35 centimeters by 45 centimeters long and 30 centimeters wide. To give some perspective on how the entire process worked, I pre-ordered the EX version at about $359 US with a $130 down deposit. The normal version would have been $319 US, and the deposit I presume would have been relatively the same. Now, with the normal version, we get the battlesuit plus 3 replaceable hands and 1 replaceable left hand. So, the EX version has not safe for work properties with a body extra and extra body pieces, which will be shown off in another video, but definitely not on YouTube. Sorry, weirdos, you gotta go elsewhere. For my own sanity, I did actually buy package insurance. It is about 10% about what you normally would pay for the full item, so if I remember correctly, it was about $60-ish. So if anything was lost or damaged, I would get my money back, because at that point, it really wasn't on the creators, it was on the couriers who were transporting it. It did take me 3 months to ship from the release email that I got in March, and I received it about mid-May. There weren't a whole lot of updates as it was traveling through China, which is a little suspicious. I would highly suggest taking that original tracking that you receive in that first email and putting it into a website known as Track13 or anything that pretty much just does universal tracking across all countries, because it is not going to move out of China for at least 2.5 months. To my surprise, there were no instructions on how to put this thing together. They just kind of handed you all the pieces and said, go for it. There weren't a lot of pieces to mess with, so it actually was relatively easy to put together even without the instructions. All of the pieces for the body are actually magnetic. I didn't feel like any of the arms were going to fall out at all. That was definitely a feature that I wasn't expecting, but I deeply appreciate. The skull, however, just sits in the hand, but it is cradled really nicely that you would have to do some serious jostling for it to want to roll off, but you could very easily use some light adhesive to make sure that it does stay in place, but that's entirely up to you. I am not going to pretend that I know a whole hell of a lot about figures. I just know that I like how they look, I like how they present themselves, and that's really all it is. I'm very much aware that sometimes there can be seams or little small tidbits of details that are missing, how bootlegs work, but I don't know the ins and outs of every figure, so if I overlook something, please just know that is because I don't know any better. And I have to say, overall, this thing is incredibly high quality. There's texture, there's different depth with the painting. I think the expressions are done very well. The texture to the cape adds so much depth. Even though it does feel a little unnecessary, it really does tie the whole thing together. The face sculpts are accurate to the character depiction, and the expressions are all well painted while keeping on model. Sometimes it falls flat with certain companies. The painting itself is top-notch. The battlesuit is rather matte and bland, but in the end, I really do feel like it makes it stand out from the rest of the base. The skull also had to be a passion piece because it was so detailed and so well crafted that I showed it off at least to friends. So overall, the actual figure is definitely a 9 out of 10. I think there were some liberties that could have been done to make the battlesuit a little less flat, but in the end, it does work out overall. This is by far my most high quality figure that I own, and this leads me to talking about the website overall. It's incredibly easy to use and to find the characters that you're looking for. The layout is a bit simple, to the point where I almost thought it was a little bit sketchy, but once you start going through the products, it's very easy to tell that the quality and what they're aiming for here is very genuine. There's lots of photos of the products, and they all seem to use mood lighting to a certain degree to capture the essence of the scene, or at least the vibe that they're trying to give off with whatever the character is doing. It's very clear that they care about the presentation of their products, and it's not just on white backdrops with 3D renders that hardly look like they're ever going to become realized. And as I said before, I did purchase the Not Safe for Work version, and the good thing about this website is everything is either covered by a sticker or is incredibly blurred to the point where you can't even tell what is supposed to be there. There is no way to see the unblurred version without potentially contacting customer service. I'm not actually sure they will even give you the photos of the unblurred versions, because I just decided to go in blind and figured, well, it can't be that bad, and if it is, it'll at least it'll be funny. Everything about the figure and other products was incredibly clear and easy to understand. They listed all of the pieces that were supposed to be there, albeit a tiny bit of broken English since this is a foreign company, but it wasn't anything that you couldn't just put 2 and 2 together. There is an option for shipping care, which is also kind of their version of insurance, which I mentioned earlier. It's 10% of the item cost and is very worth it on some of the more elaborate pieces that are big and very expensive. I don't really think there is anything on this website that isn't properly expensive, but once you see the quality of it, I don't think they're overcharging either. When you do a claim for products that are damaged, there's 3 levels of which they will give you back your money. I would 100% without a doubt always put insurance on any figure that is pretty much over $150, just because you don't know where it's coming from sometimes and whether or not the carrier is actually going to do their job. So to wrap things up in a nice neat little bow, I would have to say I totally recommend this company. I'll admit I've only bought one thing from them, but this was also a really high ticket item, and I don't know if I would trust going back to a place that I even felt iffy about. So to anyone considering buying anything from We Are a Design, they're legit, and they seem to put out a really nice product. I don't know anybody else who has really written much of a review for them, so if you've bought things from them in the past, please share them. I'd love to know. Either way, I'm a happy little weeb. Please give We Are a Design a check out. I don't get any sponsorship from this. This is just me as a person saying how great they are. I hope that I can find more reviews from this place and it blows up, because they deserve the recognition. Thank you for sticking around for all the rambling, but I hope this has opened your eyes to potentially a new company that's worth spending your money at. Thank you for joining, and I will see you guys around on the internet. Toodles!